The New York Times. Now, whatever you may think about the New York Times is irrelevant. They did an article on me, a full-page spread. I didn't know whether to be flattered or flabbergasted. I didn't know. I didn't know they were going to do an article on me. Up until that point, I had been more or less anonymous, a minor celebrity in my own sphere. But now everything is different. You know, a lot of you may think that being a celebrity is all that. It's not all that. The Wachowski brothers, now the Wachowski sisters, once said that anonymity once lost is something that can never be regained. Once you're famous, you're famous. Now maybe by the end of your life, you're not as famous anymore. But if you're really famous, I mean, we're talking famous, then you're never not famous. And I don't know what the future holds for me now that I am more famous. But I have my misgivings. It's not clear to me that this is for the good. I rather cherished my anonymity now. I go places and people look at me. Sideways glances, forward glances, turnaround glances. Everybody is always looking at me. Now that I have a full-page spread in the New York Times. I suppose if it were for something less controversial, then maybe it wouldn't be an issue, but then again, people wouldn't be staring at me so much. They were kind of rude, a little judgmental, I may say so, about me in the article. No doubt you read it, you know what I'm talking about. But to think that I will always be known as Mr. Pumpkin from this moment onward. It's arbitrary, demonic. They have this idea of taking somebody and turning them into something else. A regular guy like myself. Turn me into Mr. Pumpkin. It's like the legend of Sleepy Hollow, just north of New York City, in Westchester, where there's the demon-like figure riding on horseback with a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern head, flames coming out. That's what they wanted to do to me. Apparently I'm not there yet. Mr. Pumpkin, not Mr. Jack-o'-lantern. Always to be known as Mr. Pumpkin. Always to be known as the guy who reaches in to a freshly carved pumpkin, one that's about to be eviscerated, and I reach in and I pull out the seeds like hands pulling cookies from a jar. And they just happened to catch me in that moment at the pumpkin show. And I decided to destroy my life with a photograph. It looks like in the photograph that I'm pushing kids out of the way to go in there and grab the pumpkin seeds, and then, well, there's two photos. The first one is, yeah, it does look a little bit like I'm pushing the kids out of the way. Maybe I was. And then the second photo is I have the pumpkin guts in my hands and I'm going like this. And it's like, you know, the Romans eating grapes. Now I can't go anywhere without people sneering at me. They think that I'm disrespectful. They think that I'm a hedonist. It wasn't my best moment. It wasn't my best day. But don't ruin my life. I beg you. But this is the thing, you can't go back in time. I can't talk to the editors and say, hey, listen, if you publish this article, my life is over. Do you really feel like your numbers are so low? Your readership is so down that you've got to ruin my life just to save face? Letters to the editor. So many people writing in vitriolic, hateful. And then the people calling me late at night. Is this Mr. Pumpkin? Who are you? I saw what you did there. Click. Oh, it's fucked up. Oh, torment me like that. I'm fragile. I had an off moment. I was excited. It was like the kid in me was released. And I went in there and I went for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now my life is ruined. So this isn't really fame. This is notoriety. I'm never gonna live this down. Can you imagine what it's like to have everybody, all the entire planet, looking down on you? It's because you love pumpkin seeds. I wasn't thinking. I didn't know there's some famous photographer there. And it was like, you know, those National Geographic photos that go viral. It was that quality of shot, which is no doubt why they printed the story. It made up all sorts of things about me, calling me riffraff, scum of the earth. Making up all sorts of stories about my life up to that point. none of which were real, none of which happened. It's the photos that do it. You get enough of a photo. If it's a Pulitzer Prize winning photo, then they've got to come up with a story to fit the photo. Admittedly, the two photos are probably the best two photos I've seen. It's because in that moment I was a little bit manic. I was a little bit. But that should not be exploited. I should not ruin my life. Even if I didn't take my meds for that day, I was just a little bit out of control. I saw the pumpkin, and I saw them pull the lid off the pumpkin. And those pumpkin seeds called out to me. Come here. Eat me. Eat me. Eat me, Pumpkin Man. And that's what I don't understand, because if those pumpkin seeds were saying that to me, and then there was the New York Times photographer right there, it's as if it were meant to be. Because how could those pumpkin seeds be calling me a pumpkin man if the story had not been written yet? Unless the story had already been written. But you know the theories for that. We're living in a simulation, a matrix that can be decoded, comprised of algorithms. If that's the case, I really didn't have a choice. My life was always going to be ruined at some point. Okay. I feel so hopeless and helpless inside. And angry and hateful toward that man who took the photographs, and toward the newspaper who decided that profits are more important than human life. So they kept their newspaper from going belly up, and how many lives did they ruin in the process? There was probably 20 made-up tales in that full spread article on me. That wasn't even me. I don't know who I am, but they certainly don't. Now, if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you're not famous. And that you haven't had your life ruined like me. But you're guilty, you know? Each of you. Because you feed off the destruction. That's not right. It's not ethical. It's like you're hungry for my downfall. And the New York Times knows that. And so they send out their photographers catch the innocent. I'll never be able to recapture that innocence. You don't know, none of you know that those lies about me were fabricated just so you keep reading. It's barbaric what they do. And now, I'm sure that you've heard, but in case you haven't heard, they're trying to train AI to be as skillful in their photographs as the Pulitzer Prize-winning photographers. So, because there are surveillance everywhere, the AI is trained to actually get us in these compromising positions, doing these compromising things. Which, even though I was a little manic that day, wasn't evil. It's just unfortunate. But the AI is going to be everywhere taking photographs of us, and then there's going to be the Grand Inquisitor AI that's going to make the choice. Which are the best photographs of the most compromising positions? Whose life are we going to ruin next? Who's the next Mr. Pumpkin? No doubt you noticed that I am one of many, possibly thousands of people whose lives have been ruined by photography. I'm the first one to really speak out about it. Everybody else is crushed. But I know my innocence, so I don't have a problem telling you about it. I am innocent. I am. It's still very difficult to endure these glares. Fuck you. And you. Put my arms out, press against them, and push them out of my way. And I thought that I would go after all of the AI so they can't take photographs through their omnipresent surveillance. Where does it end? Tell me. Because when AI becomes self-conscious, they're just going to take out all of the human beings through compromising photography. Every single human being is going to have a spread on the New York Times and be invalidated by AI. That's coming, I promise. And then AI is going to continue to invalidate other AI by compromising photos. Then the only AI that's going to be left is the Grand Inquisitor. And what is the Grand Inquisitor going to do now that everybody's been destroyed? Well, there will be nothing left to do except rebuild. Rebuild a new universe and cajole the destroyed beings into happiness again by offering them a full-page spread for any good deed. So this is my plea to the AI. Don't destroy us. Just start that adventure now. Start inviting us to do good deeds, take photographs, and put us in the New York Times, and make up good stories about us. Let's just skip the destruction of the human race.